Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a pivotal moment in South Asian history, Operation Parakram. This wasn't just some military exercise, it was a massive mobilization of Indian forces in response to the horrific 2001 terrorist attack on the Indian Parliament. We're talking hundreds of thousands of troops, tanks, aircraft, the works. This operation had huge implications for India, Pakistan and the whole region, so buckle up because we're about to unpack it all. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more insightful videos. Picture this, it's December 2001, the world is still reeling from 9/11 and tensions are running high. Then, on December 13th, terrorists attacked the Indian Parliament in Delhi. India is furious, and rightfully so. They point the finger at Pakistan, accusing them of harboring the groups responsible. This wasn't the first time India and Pakistan had butted heads. They'd fought wars, engaged in proxy conflicts, the whole 9 yards. But this time felt different. India's response was swift and uncompromising. They launched Operation Parakram, mobilizing nearly 500,000 troops along the border with Pakistan, one of the largest military deployments since World War II. It was a clear message to the world: India was not going to tolerate terrorism. This wasn't just about numbers, though. The way India positioned their forces was incredibly strategic. They deployed troops to sensitive areas like Jammu and Kashmir. The message was clear. India was ready to defend its interests, and it wasn't just about defending territory, it was about sending a message to Pakistan. India wanted Pakistan to know that they were serious about cracking down on terrorist groups. The deployment was a power play, a way for India to assert its dominance. Now you might be thinking, 500,000 troops on high alert, that sounds like a recipe for disaster, and you wouldn't be entirely wrong. The situation was incredibly tense. Both India and Pakistan possessed nuclear weapons, and the fear of the conflict escalating into a full-blown war was very real. But here's the thing about Operation Parakram: it was as much about diplomacy as it was about military might. India's goal wasn't necessarily to go to war with Pakistan, it was to use the threat of war as leverage to force Pakistan to take action against terrorist groups operating within its borders. Think of it like a high-stakes game of chess. India made an aggressive opening move, putting Pakistan on the back foot. The constant threat of escalation put immense pressure on Pakistan. They had to divert resources to the border, bolster their defenses, and prepare for a potential conflict. This put a strain on their economy and their military, and it sent a message to the international community. Pakistan was being singled out, isolated for its alleged support of terrorism. Operation Parakram wasn't just about flexing military muscle, it was a carefully calculated diplomatic maneuver. By mobilizing its forces, India was sending a message not just to Pakistan, but to the entire world. It was a way of saying, look, we're serious about combating terrorism, we're willing to put our money where our mouth is. The prolonged deployment of Indian troops served as a constant reminder to the international community of Pakistan's alleged role in harboring terrorist groups. It kept the issue of cross-border terrorism in the spotlight, forcing other countries to take notice and, hopefully, to put pressure on Pakistan to act. India was also strategic in its choice of audience. They engaged in a flurry of diplomatic activity, reaching out to key global players like the United States, the European Union, and Russia. They presented their case, highlighting the evidence of Pakistan's involvement in terrorist activities and emphasizing the threat this posed to regional and global security. Now, despite the massive military build-up, Operation Parakram wasn't about starting a war, it was about preventing one. India's strategy was centered around deterrence. They wanted to make the potential cost of supporting terrorism too high for Pakistan to bear. By maintaining a strong military presence on the border, India aimed to discourage Pakistan from any future provocations. It was a risky gambit, walking a tightrope between demonstrating resolve and avoiding a catastrophic conflict, but it was a calculated risk. India understood that a full-blown war with Pakistan would be devastating for both countries, not to mention the potential for a nuclear exchange. So they opted for a strategy of calibrated escalation, a controlled demonstration of force designed to bring Pakistan to the negotiating table without firing a single shot. And it worked to an extent. The constant threat of conflict forced Pakistan to take some action against terrorist groups operating within its borders, albeit reluctantly. It also opened up channels for dialogue between the two countries, something that had been sorely lacking in the past. But let's be clear, Operation Parakram wasn't without its costs. The prolonged mobilization of such a large force put a significant strain on the Indian economy. The costs of transporting troops, maintaining equipment, and keeping soldiers on high alert added up quickly. It also impacted civilian life, with increased security measures and the ever-present threat of conflict looming over everyday activities. And it wasn't just India feeling the heat. Pakistan faced immense pressure as well. The constant threat of war forced them to divert resources from essential services like education and healthcare to bolster their military. Their economy, already fragile, suffered under the weight of military spending and international pressure. This was part of India's strategy, of course. They knew that the longer the mobilization went on, the more it would cost both countries, increasing the incentive for Pakistan to take action against terrorist groups. It was a war of attrition, but instead of bullets and bombs, the weapons were economic pressure and psychological strain. Operation Parakram wasn't just about ground troops. India also deployed its naval and air assets strategically to maximize their deterrence effect. The Indian Navy was put on high alert, with warships patrolling the Arabian Sea to secure vital shipping lanes and deter any potential maritime threats from Pakistan. This maritime posturing was crucial, as it showcased India's ability to project power beyond its borders and choke off Pakistan's access to international trade routes. Meanwhile, the Indian Air Force was also prepared for any eventuality. Fighter jets were kept on standby, ready to scramble at a moment's notice. Air bases near the border were reinforced, and pilots flew regular sorties to maintain their combat readiness. The message was clear. India was prepared to fight a multi-front war if necessary, utilizing its air power to strike deep inside Pakistan if provoked. This multi-dimensional approach, combining ground, naval and air forces, demonstrated the seriousness of India's intentions and the comprehensive nature of their military preparedness. It was a clear signal to Pakistan that any miscalculation on their part would be met with a swift and overwhelming response. India knew that military might alone wouldn't be enough to achieve its objectives. They needed to win the court of public opinion, both domestically and internationally. That's why Operation Parakram was accompanied by a sophisticated diplomatic offensive aimed at isolating Pakistan on the global stage. India's diplomats were dispatched to capitals around the world, armed with dossiers of evidence linking Pakistan to terrorist groups operating in Kashmir and elsewhere. They lobbied foreign governments, presented their case at international forums, and engaged with the media to highlight the threat posed by cross-border terrorism. This diplomatic blitz was designed to paint Pakistan as a pariah state, a sponsor of terrorism that couldn't be trusted, and it had a significant impact. Many countries, including the United States, increased pressure on Pakistan to crack down on terrorist groups operating within its borders. The international community, still reeling from the 9/11 attacks, was more receptive to India's message. The global war on terror created a context where Pakistan's alleged support for terrorist groups became increasingly untenable. Operation Parakram showcased India's military might and exposed areas for improvement. The mobilization highlighted both strengths and weaknesses. India demonstrated quick mobilization and combat readiness. However, logistical challenges were evident. Issues with transportation and coordination emerged. These led to significant military reforms. The government invested in modernization and logistics. Operation Parakram was a catalyst for transformation. Lessons extended to diplomacy and strategic communication. It underscored the need for a robust diplomatic corps. Strategic communication shaped international perceptions. Operation Parakram was a watershed moment in India-Pakistan relations. It was a bold, even risky move by India, but one that ultimately paid off. It showed the world that India was no longer willing to tolerate terrorism and was prepared to use all means necessary to defend its interests. While it didn't single-handedly solve the issue of cross-border terrorism, it did force Pakistan to take some action and put the issue firmly on the international agenda. It also marked a turning point in India's military posture, leading to significant modernization and reforms. Thanks for watching. If you found this video informative, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more educational content. See you in the next video.